Thank you for tuning in to the Leroy Brown Talk Show. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to start off by talking about South Carolina. Now, this weekend, for all you South Carolina fans, and, I'm getting real tired of seeing the comments on the Leroy Brown Talk Show on Facebook of, the Saturday leading up to the game. It's, well, you shouldn't talk about Will Muschamp that way. You shouldn't talk about him that way. He's a great coach. We're doing great things in South Carolina. You call yourself a South Carolina fan? What kind of host would call himself a South Carolina fan, wear South Carolina gear, and then trash the program? Someone who's a realist. That's who. The simple fact is this. You don't hire somebody who can't do their job. You wouldn't go to a law firm and say, hey, I just got picked up on, these criminal charges. Can I get the worst attorney in the law firm? Where's the most terrible lawyer within the CSRA at? Oh, he's over here. I'll hire him. No, you're going to go for the best. You're going to recruit the best, especially to defend you on that trial or defend you against whoever it is. You're also going to find the best of the best when it comes to any coach at a Division I. Kirby Smart was a great hire for UGA. Dabo Swinney, great hire for Clemson. Lane Kiffin, not so much. Not at Tennessee. Nick Saban at LSU, great head coach. He left LSU to go to another award-winning program at Alabama. Great hire for Alabama. You pick a coach that's going to take you somewhere. Here's the problem. This is what South Carolina did, and South Carolina fans should have been with picket torches going towards Ray Tanner's office back when Spurrier left. We might be hiring Will Muschamp. Because here's the problem with Will Muschamp. You don't have to recruit at the University of Florida. That's not the school that you have to prove why you should go there. Now, for the, University of South Carolina, when you have A, no national championships in football, B, no SEC championships, you don't have a winning tradition, you have to recruit. So, to recruit, and, I'm going to tell you the best thing about recruiting, because I used to be an Army recruiter. The thing about selling someone a branch of service, it doesn't matter if it's the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard. You're selling that individual themselves. Now, when I was an Army recruiter, I used to tell kids all the time, look, what do you want to be when you get out? If you were getting out of the Army today, what is it that you would have wanted to do as a civilian? I want to be an X-ray technician. Then that's what you need to go in as. Don't sit here saying I want to be an infantryman, I want to be a ranger, I want to be an SF guy, because you're going to be miserable. Because the whole time you're doing it, you're going to sit there and think to yourself, I wish I was doing this. For the kids that came in the same way that I did, that say I want to be an airborne infantryman, I went to every branch with the same mindset in my head. I want to jump out of airplanes, and I want to be an infantryman. My granddad was an infantryman in Korea. I've had several other relatives that were infantrymen throughout the wars. That's what I want to be. I want to be an infantryman. I want to be airborne. I want to jump out of airplanes. So I went to the Navy. I said, I want to be an airborne infantryman. We don't have infantry. We got airborne. You can be a SEAL. No, it's not what I want to do. I want to be an airborne infantryman. So then I went to the Marine Corps. I want to be an airborne infantryman. And the Marine Corps recruiter said, I can give you infantry, but I cannot guarantee you airborne unless you go recon. No, I want something that guarantees me I want to jump out of airplanes for a living. So I went to the Army recruiter's office. Same thing. I wanted to be an airborne infantryman. Not only could he get me an airborne infantryman, he'd get me some other cool schools on the side. So I signed with the Army. I used to do the same thing as a recruiter. I did not put you in a slot that you wouldn't go to. The other thing you run into as a recruiter is you have to be able to sell them the idea that, if they come from a broken home, they come from being poor, that they can accomplish all the things they strive for by coming into your military branch. So what are you telling your recruits that go play for South Carolina right now? If you come to our program, you're going to lose the same way that this guy was responsible for at Florida. Remember, he was fired from Florida because he wasn't a good coach at Florida. Will Muschamp is a great defensive coach, a terrible head coach. I will be the only one in the CSRA to call him out for it. So, I love to point out the fact that, we're going to talk about what I picked back in July when you guys lost your mind. I said they would lose to the Tar Heels. They would beat Charleston Southern. You're going to lose to Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky, Georgia, Florida. Tennessee might come down in a field goal, but I think Tennessee is the one that beats you this year. And I think you have a chance against Vanderbilt, but based off of what I've seen this year, I think Vandy wins. Appalachian State is known for blowing schools out, and that's the only second game I have you winning. But depending on how debacle this team gets, they might get blown out. I said South Carolina would win 2 games this year, and the 2 games I picked were Vanderbilt and Charleston Southern. I didn't have them beating anybody else. And all you callers, all you listeners, lost your mind over it. I said the best thing that the University of South Carolina can do, instead of focusing on doing videos every week of what jersey they're going to wear, is fire their head coach. The sooner they sever the foot that's got gangrene to save the rest of the body, the better. So let's talk about why they can't fire him. The University of South Carolina Athletics Department is projected to bring in a whopping $125 million this year during the 2020 season. Of that total, it is projected an estimate $113 million will go towards their debt, leaving about $12 million in profit. Beyond that, the department currently is currently in its 7th year under the leadership of former baseball coach Ray Tanner, and is carrying approximately $173 million in debt. Why do all these numbers matter? Because the school's football program is currently in free fall. Under its 4th year under head coach Will Muschamp, who was inexplicably given a raise and a contract extension after the 2018's underwhelming performance. Oh, did I mention Tanner got an extension as well? Did either of them deserve it? Absolutely not. That much has been made painfully clear. And, I'll give Tanner credit where it's due. Frank Martin, great coach. Great hire. Don Staley, great hire. How's that baseball program doing since you left? Terrible? Yeah, that's what I thought. How's that football program doing? Terrible? Yeah, that's what I thought. So what are we left with? What are the key takeaways? Accordingly, it is time to start talking about the financial implications of parting ways with Muschamp, a 48-year-old Rome, Georgia native who previously flamed out after his 4 years as head coach at the University of Florida. Muschamp was 28-21, 17-15 against all SEC opponents while at his time in Gainesville. Right now, he's 23-20. He's 10-15 against SEC opponents at South Carolina. Now, if you look back at the fact that Florida got rid of him when he had an even worse record, how much longer does South Carolina keep a coach who's doing the same thing that I told you he would do? You don't get the worst coach and expect him to take a program that he was failing at and make it a great program at another school. If you can't win at Florida, you're not going to win at South Carolina. That's like taking an Alabama coach who, he coached at Alabama. He went 0-16. Oh, we should hire him. No. Because you don't have to recruit at Alabama. You don't have to recruit at Alabama the same way you have to recruit at South Carolina. And if you think I'm lying on this one, I encourage you to sit back as a Carolina fan for a second and get off of your soapbox and realize that what are you actually recruiting towards? We had a Heisman Trophy winner in 1980. Cool. That was what, 30 years ago? Well, we had a SEC run in 2009. That was 10 years ago, and that was under a different head coach. That was called Steve Spurrier's program. Well, Connor Shaw was our greatest quarterback. Oh, yeah? Did you go to the SEC championship under Connor Shaw? No, the same guy that you put down all the time in Columbia, Steven Garcia, was the one that took you to the SEC East. He's the one that took you to the SEC championship that you lost to Auburn on. Oh, yeah, that's right. He still lost us the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Yeah, he might have lost you Chick-fil-A Bowl, but the problem there is you had a ton of injuries leading up to the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and then your number one running back got it knocked out in that game. So is that Marcus Lattimore's fault? No. So what are you recruiting towards? Hey, if you come to South Carolina, not only do you have Will Muschamp, let's talk about last year's season. This is why you should sign with us. We won against Coastal Carolina. We lost against Georgia. We won against Vanderbilt. We lost against Kentucky. We won against Vanderbilt. Or against Missouri, we won only by 2 points. We lost to A&M. We won against Tennessee only by a field goal. We won against Ole Miss, which was a terrible program last year, which, by the way, that score was 48-44 against Ole Miss. Think about that for a second. That proves that you didn't have a defense. Oh, we lost against Florida. We won against Chattanooga. We lost 35-56 against Clemson. We won against Akron. We got blown out. We didn't even score a run on December 29th against Virginia. You remember that? You remember the 28-0? Oh, but it's a new season. It's a new season, Leroy. We have a better team now. And we lost to North Carolina. Oh, we still got hope though. But we got Helensky, and we just went 72-10 against Charleston Southern, a team which you're supposed to beat. That's like Clemson playing, I don't know, Miami of Ohio, the Citadel, some team that, Francis Marion University's football program. You expect to win. And then if you're a losing program and you've had a terrible season, all of a sudden, because you beat Charleston Southern, we're back to number one. No, you're not. You're still a terrible team. So what happened against Alabama? 47-23. What happened against Missouri, which you told all your fans that you were going to do so greatly in with your best recruited team? This is your team. You're absolutely right, Will Muschamp. It is your team. There is no one who can put the blame on anyone else other than you. Think about that for a second. You preached it all throughout the offseason. It's my team. We're so great. We got the toughest schedule in the SEC. Yeah, you got the toughest schedule, and you're the worst team in the SEC. So, we'll just go ahead and, call it as what it is. You're a terrible coach. Yet, here you are, sitting here on your pedestal, talking about how you're going to, just roll it over. Yeah, good luck. You know who I said back in June on 92.9 who was going to win the SEC East? I said it was Georgia. Georgia is going to come out this year and shock everyone. If you don't believe me, you can go back and look at the audio. I also said that I think Alabama wins the SEC West, but I think LSU is the one that takes it. It's crazy how if you take yourself out from being a fan of a team and caring so much about a team and you just look at the facts of who the players are, you can already start to figure out where your team's going to be. And I'm telling you right now, South Carolina has got to sever the Will Muschamp foot from its body. Because it is sinking. It's going to continue to sink. It's going to continue to go nowhere with its program with him. And it's going to cost you a ton of money. But at the same time, maybe you should have made an athletic coordinator your former baseball coach who had no experience as being an athletic director before making him your athletic director. He should have stayed your baseball coach because your baseball program hasn't done anything since you hired him to be your athletic director. I love Ray Tanner. I think he's a great person. But, the bottom line is the final dollar stops with the tippity top. So the problem is that you hired Will Muschamp, and you have to lay in the bed in which you hired. And the problem with making you the athletic director falls on, who was it, Eric Pastides, because you made him the athletic director. When your fans jump ship after 3 years, you should have fired him. Not extended his contract. Not extended also your athletic director's contract. You should have sat there and said, I'm not going to extend anything until you win something. Now, Ray Tanner had a great hire in Don Staley with bringing a national championship. He had a great hire in Frank Martin with as far as the men's basketball program has gone. But as far as the replacement for you at the baseball team and the replacement for Steve Spurrier at the football program, something needs to change. The Associated Press released its top 25 poll this past Sunday, and right now, your top four are Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. Georgia came out beating Notre Dame, and that game was close. The best thing I have to say about the Georgia game is this. Jake Fromm looked spectacular. It wasn't, Tagovailoa or whatever his last name is, or Joe Burrow laser show. But Fromm was in complete control of the Georgia offensive line against Notre Dame. He threw 20 of 26 passes that were completed. Now, of those completed passes that were completed, it was only for 187 yards. But his second half performance ultimately ended up being the difference in the game. He completed 9 of his 14 pass attempts in the half for another 126 yards. An unreal pass and catch by Lawrence Cager. Remember, he did the one-handed catch. Fromm arguably could have had an even better day if his wide receivers had been able to haul in some of the passes that hit their hands that dropped. Fromm is usually the case, as is usually the case, looked his best when operating at a faster pace against Notre Dame versus a slower pace. Which, that I'm going to throw this out there. If South Carolina, when they play them, can slow down their offense, maybe they have a chance against. Oh, well, no, wait, they still have Will Muschamp. That's not going to happen. Georgia is doing remarkable, and I love everything that Georgia's doing. I wish we had Kirby Smart at South Carolina, but, keep doing what you're doing, Bulldog fans, and, the Bulldog program. I also want to, mention their new lights they had when they started the second half and everything went dark and they had it red glowing. Ooh, it was good looking. I can admire that. Clemson's got some really great news today. The number 1 rated 2021 center, Ryan Leacham, committed to Clemson over the finalists Ohio State, Michigan, Virginia Tech, on this afternoon. Muschamp visited Saturday alongside his fellow teammate and Clemson five-star commit Brian Brees from Clemson's 52-10 win over Charlotte. The four-star lineman talked about the visit to Clemson with Tiger Net. He went on to say, "I just loved it there and can't wait to get back. I loved talking to all the commits there. It was just crazy. They're all a bunch of awesome guys. I was hanging out with Mitchell, and he's such a good guy, really down to earth. We can talk about other things than just football." Way to go, Clemson. Way to have a winning program. Way to have a coach who knows how to win. But, as always, I am going to say this. Clemson, they did beat Charlotte 52-10. You play North Carolina State, or not North Carolina State. You play UNC, the Tar Heels. This Saturday, you're playing Mac Brown. Then you got Florida State, Louisville, Boston College, Wofford, NC State, Wake Forest, and then you're playing a miserable South Carolina team. South Carolina. I can't wait to talk about football tomorrow and move on from the headache that is the Gamecocks program. An American soldier at Fort Riley in Kansas has been arrested after allegedly discussing an attack on major U.S. news network, sharing instructions on building an explosive and targeting Beto O'Rourke, authorities announced Monday. Jarrett William Smith, 24, was charged with one count of disturbing information relating to explosives and weapons of mass destruction, the Justice Department announced in a news release. Smith, a private first-class infantry soldier, allegedly spoke to an undercover FBI agent last month and discussed plans to conduct an attack in the U.S. He said he was looking for more radicals like himself, mentioning members of the far-left group Antifa, according to an affidavit. He allegedly suggested a major American news network, the name of which was redacted from the affidavit, could be the target of a vehicle bomb. A large vehicle bomb filled a vehicle full of explosions, then filled a ping pong ball with commonly available chemical. Smith again engaged in conversation with an undercover FBI agent on Friday, allegedly having to exchange over a person who would make a good target to take out. He appears to refer to the 2020 Democratic presidential contender, former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. O'Rourke responded later Monday at a town hall in India. "We have been sharing any information that's relevant with the FBI. Very confident in the ability of bringing the case to justice to protect our fellow Americans. We're grateful to the FBI for the diligence in handling the case, for their work to keep our country safe in the face of domestic terror threats." We've got a huge problem with the division that's within this country, and I'm going to start off by just saying this. If we're going to sit here and think that it's okay to, look, I grew up on the, it's either you're Republican, you're Democrat, and now you got Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. You're Americans first. Your parties come second. Constitution comes first. Bill of Rights comes first. Your freedom comes first. Just because you don't like the way somebody talks or somebody's beliefs doesn't give you the right to go in and just destroy it. For instance, I think all UGA fans are terrible people because I'm a South Carolina fan. But I'm not going to do anything wrong. That's just like, people will say, well, how can you root for a team that loses? I don't know. At this point, I really just don't know anymore. I think most Marines eat crowns or crayons, whatever you want to pronounce it, because I'm an Army guy. But, it's all in good fun. We need to quit being so sensitive. For the love of Pete's sake, we really do. It's going to be the ultimate demise of this country. And, I'm glad the FBI was able to step in and stop this idiot from ruining even more things. Because, I've I personally have had it with the back and forth of gun rights and this and that and how we should be for, here and there. It's at this point, I just want us to be the country that I know we can be and go where I know we can go, because there is so much for us to be grateful for, so much for us to be thankful for, so much for us to be happy over. But we have to be able to just make the people who disagree with certain things, and a lack of better terms, grow up and let them know that you don't need a quiet place. You don't need to do silent applauses. You don't need to do this. You need to grow up. Sometimes people say things that are going to hurt your feelings. Oh well, get over it and start acting like an adult. I grew up with, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Duh. Because they're just words. My dad also told me this one advice. Say it, forget it. Write it, regret it. How many times does somebody tweet something nowadays that gets them in trouble? Maybe don't come out and write your opinion for everyone to see, because someone nowadays is going to get offended and take it the wrong way, and you are SOL at that point. I do want to touch briefly on the whistleblower who sparked the mounting controversy over President Trump's July call to Ukrainian president. Did not have the first-hand knowledge of the conversation. A person familiar with the situation told Fox News. Even as issues fuel impeachment calls for the Democrats, the source said that it made clear that the complaint itself, that the whistleblower did not have a direct knowledge of the July phone call between Trump and the Ukrainian Vladimir Zelensky. Fox News has learned that typically multiple U.S. officials are on such calls with the president, but this would indicate the whistleblower is not one of those people. It's unclear if the individual read the transcript of the call, heard about the conversation, or learned of it in another way. Democrats, meanwhile, have seized the allegations that Trump pressured Zelensky to investigate domestic presidential candidate Joe Biden's family for their wrong dealings, and those claims of revived calls for impeachment. Trump has denied the wrongdoing. Joe Biden's son took money from a Ukrainian official, and it was investigated under Ukraine back during the Obama administration, and it was swept on the rug. And from what I can tell, once the prosecutor who was resigned and removed from Ukraine stepped down, President Trump then brought it back up to the new Ukrainian president's point of view and said, hey, I want you guys to reinvestigate this because it was swept under the rug, and I feel that the American people have the right to know what's going on. Please reinvestigate it. Say what you want. If you'd like to sponsor our show the same way Stan McDaniels at State Farm does, and if you're new to the CSRA or the Augusta area and you like this, and you're looking for an insurance agent, I want to go ahead and tell you to go see my buddy Stan McDaniel. He's over at 3404 Peach Orchard Road in Augusta, Georgia. His phone number is 706-723-5200. He can help you out when it comes to getting the best insurance within the CSRA. And I encourage any military member that's stationed at Fort Gore, or a veteran or a family member, to give Stan McDaniel a call. I also want to encourage you, if you'd like to sponsor the Leroy Brown Talk Show, you can by doing so by calling 706-738-9191. Tell them you want to sponsor the Leroy Brown Talk Show, the best veteran talk show within the CSRA. You can also follow us at 929thesoulmine.com. You can listen in on the Leroy Brown Talk Show on Facebook, as well as on Instagram and on YouTube. You can also listen and tune in through the TuneIn app by simply going on to 92.9 WYBO and tuning in from 7 to 8 for the Leroy Brown Talk Show. It is always a pleasure to come to you, CSRA. As always, remember that if your main chute doesn't deploy, you have your reserve on standby.